Morning, everybody. We'll start soon. I'm just giving people a couple of minutes to get in, and then I am just thought I might as well broadcast on YouTube as well. So while people are entering, I thought I'd see if I can get on YouTube. We'll see how that's going to go. But we'll be starting in just a few minutes. I've got 1 minute after the hour, and I see people coming in the waiting room. So yay for being early, yay for being on time, yay for being here. And just gonna let a couple of more people in before we get started. I'm gonna see if I can hook it up. YouTube, see how that's gonna go for me. Good morning. Please do me a favor and put in the chat where you're coming in from. My name is Adrienne. I voted DC from Sweden. I'm a Washington, DC native. I'm home in DC right now at my parents' house. Um, I'm going to check and see while we're together, check and see if um, my ballot came in, overseas ballots. Some have been arriving. We're supposed to get them 45 days out. I'll go ahead and use this channel. 45 days out from the election. So they have been arriving in people's email boxes all week. I have colleagues that have gotten them from Wisconsin, Arizona. I can't think of the other state now. Oh, New Jersey. So, but not everyone from New Jersey. So I guess it may depend on your district. Some are getting them out faster than others. Okay, so that's that with YouTube. I don't see anyone else in the chat. Let's see where I thought I could go on YouTube. Here it is, live on YouTube. All righty. So let's get going. I'm going to be on and off camera so that I can have a stronger internet. So right now I'm just trying to come on camera. Yeah, to quickly introduce myself. As I said, my name is Adrienne. I vote in DC, live in Sweden. Uh, I am a volunteer with When We All Vote, and I wanted to do this to let people know that if they have not received an overseas absentee ballot, that there is a federal emergency write-in absentee ballot that we can use, and we'll go over that today. It's 5 steps, but maybe just to roll back a minute. If you're an American overseas, or if you know an American overseas and this is part of your get out the vote work, we get specially protected ballots. So we don't want to just request your typical absentee from your board of elections. We don't want people who are going to vote from overseas because they live and work overseas to get a traditional absentee ballot. They should go to fvap.gov, the Federal Voting Assistance Program website that the government runs, to get a special absentee ballot. It's federally protected. There's a law, basically because of the military. Thank goodness for our military members, right? All they do, they literally protect our right to vote. So 5 steps. You will need a printer in this process. You will need a printer. Everything is online except for you have to print it out and you have to sign it. How you get it back to your state will depend on your state. So what do you remember? Overseas, go to fvap.gov. You want to ask for your ballot to you by email. Those ballots are starting to arrive now. So even if you are not registered to vote, it's going to depend on your state, but I don't believe missed any deadlines this early. But time is running out. So go to fvap.gov, get your special absentee ballot. It'll be by state, the process to walk through. I thought I heard someone coming in. Let's see. Okay, no one in the waiting room. Perfect. So before you leave today, you're going to go through this process. If you like, you can open up your computer and start and do it now, or on your device. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on a tablet. 5 easy steps. Step 1, fill in the form. Sounds basic, but that's where you start. And as I say, you're going to get a drop down by state, answer the questions. One of the questions is going to be, do you just, are you going to reside overseas forever or come home? Answer that the best way that you know. But depending on your state, that will determine what kind of ballot you would get. Some states do not let you vote down ballot if you don't have an intention to return. So that's something that you can find out for your state as well. Step 4, you're going to, okay, no, let me go back. Step 2, you're going to fill in everything. And then, they're going to get you to the screen where you're going to review all of your information. Step 3, this is where you have to print it out. So if you're in the process and don't have a printer, you can save it to maybe go someplace with a printer, right? Your school library, the public library, the like the UPS store. What are those? The shipping packing stores. Oftentimes, the copy stores to make copies. They have printers. Maybe you have a friend that can do it for you at their office, but you will have to print it out because you have to sign it. You have to do a liquid signature. So that's what that's called, a liquid signature. When you use your pen, you do have to print that. And then you have to send it back. Now, the way you send it back is going to vary by state. I vote in DC, as I said, I can upload it. They have a site where I can upload it. But to do that, I use an app called Genius Scan. Let's see if I can pull it up. Genius Scan. And I just, okay, here's Genius Fax. I just take a picture, you printed out your document, Genius Scan. This is an app that I use. It's free. I don't know if there's a paid version. I don't need the paid version for what I do. So you literally take a picture of your document. It'll be highlighted in a frame, like an orange frame, so you know you've got the picture. You save that as a PDF and email it to yourself. Then you've got that to email further, or to again print. Well, if you have to mail it in, you've got that original that you're mailing in. If you can fax it in, some states let you fax it in. DC was one of those. There's an app called Genius Fax. Again, that's free. And there are free, this is free through your Wi-Fi, is what I want to say. So your election office will have provided their fax number in the paperwork as you go through. So remember, you'll need a printer. You will need a printer to complete this process. If you don't have a process, save the forms to when you can get to a printer. But you will need a printer, and you'll need Adobe version 6.0 or higher. So that's it. It's 5 steps. I'm here for questions. I'm going to go through this again. I really would like for you to do this with me. Don't worry about submitting an absentee ballot because you won't print it out and send it in. But I would like for you to see how straightforward it is. It's literally 5 steps. 5 steps. Any questions? I would love to go over it with you again. I don't know if anybody wants to go through it and share your experience. I can do it with you. I'm so familiar with it. I would like someone who's not familiar with it to go through the process so that you can see it's straightforward. You do, just like with any type of ballot, want to make sure that you follow your instructions completely, specifically when it comes to returning your ballot. If it says that you do not have to postal mail your ballot, do not postal mail your ballot. Send it in the other ways that they say, if you can fax it, if you can email it, if you can upload it. Why? Because you don't want any delay. I don't know about your postal system in your host country. Maybe it's slow. In Sweden, where I am, we get mail 3 days a week. 3 days a week. And we never, since I've been living there 19 years, got mail on Saturdays. So 3 days a week. So, right, you need to get your ballot in right away. Now, this emergency write-in ballot, this is a ballot that you can use today if you don't have your ballot didn't come in. Let me see if mine came in. You can do it, and then your ballot comes after you submit your ballot, and they will count your ballot. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'm submitting 2 ballots. Only 1 ballot will be counted. And the federal emergency ballot, that will be counted if nothing else comes in for you. if your traditional ballot does not come in because it is an emergency ballot, right? So that can be now. That can be sent in now. Some people are requesting their ballots, registering to vote, and submitting their emergency absentee ballots all in one step. Because when you go to fvap.gov, the Federal Voting Assistance Program website run by the government, it is where you can register to vote. It is where you can request a ballot, and it is where you can retrieve your federal emergency write-in absentee ballot. So it's everything there. So registering to vote and requesting a ballot is the same step, one step. So if you're just requesting your ballot, that's one step, and it would be the same form as if you were registering to vote. So remember 5 steps. Thank the military for protecting our right to vote. Any American that's overseas, living, working, can use a federally protected absentee ballot. It's 5 steps. Step 1, go to fvap.gov and fill it out, the form, right? You have to start from the beginning. There's going to be a drop-down menu for your state and DC and what Mariana Islands can vote in federal elections, Virgin Islands, all of your state or territory. DC will be listed. Step 2, after you fill everything out, review it, make sure you have everything right. They're going to ask you if you tend to return to the United States. Fill it out honestly. That may, depending on your state, determine what kind of ballot. If you get a down ballot. Down ballot is what everybody that's not president and vice president. So do you have governor races, Senate races, House of Representatives? Do you have your local election, right? Your mayor, city council, attorney general? All of those are very, very important. And you want to vote every position on your ballot. If you're not familiar with the candidates on your ballot, a really good resource is Ballotpedia. I believe that's ballotpedia.org. We can look that up while we're here. So step 3, remember you're going to need a printer. So if you don't have a printer at home, see who has a printer for you, whether it's your school library, the public library, a store like a UPS store or a copy store. A friend maybe can do it for you in their office. I'm going to see if my ballot arrived. Today is the 21st. Ballots should be arriving by now. What I'm going to do is, let's see. I know BOE, DC, BOE, DC for District of Columbia, BOE, Board of Elections, .org. I'm going to search for that and see if my ballot came in. Oh, wow. You know what? I got an email from them yesterday. Dear UACAVA voter, UACAVA, Uniform Overseas Citizens, we're going to look that up, Voting Act, American Voting Act. Uniform Overseas Citizens American Voting Act. I believe that's what that is.
Adrienne.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm new to this. I'm totally confused. Not about the steps now. I have the 5 steps and I took the notes. Who am I registering?
Okay. Now, how are you doing your voter registration? Are you like sitting at tables out and meeting and talking to people, or are you doing it like telling your friends and family? How are you doing it?
Okay, so I've just done phone banking and I've headquartered the Democratic office. I wrote postcards and all that.
Oh,
However, this is a little different. So voter registration. So do I print out all these voter registrations?
No,
And
you
then
know what you can do? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. What you can do is if you have, so you have the website, fbap.gov.
yes, yes.
You can literally, if you have your phone or tablet with you, show them that website and say, if you're voting from overseas or you know anybody that's overseas, send them to this website.
Okay, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You don't have to have any paper forms or anything. So you just want to keep it because you know what? Maybe you don't know somebody overseas, but maybe you know somebody who knows somebody, it may not be a direct connection. But if you just keep it in your mind and say, you know what, if you know anybody overseas, whether they're military or not, they can vote. Because a lot of people just don't know they can vote if they're overseas. They
Yeah.
use,
Okay. Okay.
they're usually pretty good about telling the military on base, but just to make sure. And so that's all you're doing. You're just including this, message for overseas people in your work and saying, don't forget, if you know somebody overseas, just go to fvap.gov because it's
Okay. And I do live I mean, within 20 minutes of probably about 4 or 5 different military bases, and we're retired military, so that
okay.
would be good just to go walk around like in the, just on the base or anywhere and just say, did you register?
Absolutely. And say, do
And then
you
show them
remember
that
you?
link. Okay, I just,
Absolutely.
okay.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, a former military. My dad was military. My husband was military. Did you move around a lot?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. But we're retired now, so, but we live right here. We retired around, like I said, about 5 different bases within 20 minutes.
Okay, yes,
So,
ma'am. Just keep it
I
in your
can go to the BX
conversation.
or PX and just ask people, have you registered? And then, if they say, well, I don't know, I'm from here, usually it would probably be the younger generation,
Exactly.
of airmen, and
You
they would
got
be
it.
probably like, well, I live away. And I'm like, well, you live away, but you still have rights,
There
and
you
show
go.
them.
That's exactly the conversation. You got it. That's exactly the conversation. And oh my gosh, just think about, you're right. All those dependents that this will be their first election,
Right,
so they may not be up on it because they move around so lot, like move
right.
around so much, like you said, exactly. Oh my gosh, this is for
Okay.
them. Send
Yep.
them, yeah, this is for
Yep.
them. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
asking. That's a perfect question.
Awesome.
Perfect
Yeah.
question. Yeah. And you know
We're
what?
gonna
You would
do
also
this. We all do.
go ahead,
We
baby.
all
What?
do our little bit and our little piece, and we got it.
Exactly.
You
It's
know.
the little piece. And the other thing, when you ask them, then they're gonna remember and they're gonna ask somebody else, You're gonna start, how that trickle on effect.
Yeah, because they could be like, okay, I've seen this lady. I didn't think I could vote, and hey, just click on this and 5 easy steps and
That's
what have you.
exactly how to be. That's exactly how to be. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you came today. You got it. You
Yep,
got it.
good.
That's exactly the message. And you know how you do this. You don't have to push anybody. You just tell them, drop the information and say, think about it. Or, because some people can be hesitant. You can say, I promise you it's easy. 5 steps.
I have very thick skin, and I don't count, if they say I don't want to do it or whatever, I don't count that against them. I don't count it nothing. I just go, well, that could have been a possibility. If I didn't ask, they wouldn't have known, and
There you
shame
go.
on me.
That's the right attitude. Because how do you know if you don't try? And
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you came today and that you feel comfortable talking to people and that
Oh
you're gonna
yeah,
do it.
I've been on the phones, and I live in Virginia, but I've been on phone banking since July 27th. And I get on, people just say stuff, and I don't take it. I just go, have a good day, bye, okay, whatever, and that's it. And I keep it moving, and that's the bottom
That's
line, because it's all
that's it.
business. We're talking
That's
about
it.
people's lives here,
You
literally.
absolutely
You
right.
know, every creed, every color, it's people's lives, and that's the bottom line. A lot
You
of times
abs-
they'll have scripts, and I'll go off script and break it down, because some people need to have that broken down. I go, look, my grandchildren, my daughter is a single parent. She has three
oh, is
kids,
she?
and she works hard. She owns a clothing store. She does all this, and she does this and stuff, but she does get help from the federal government. And that's okay, because she's making ends meet. So, and I
Yeah.
go, and if you don't want your EBT snaps or whatever, then don't vote. That's the bottom line. And they go, what? I didn't know that. And I
Yeah.
go, exactly.
You
I
have to
go,
connect the dots. Yeah.
so I had
You
to break it down and say, I'm a grandma on here trying to fight for my grandchildren. And I could see if, my daughter wasn't absolutely doing that. She owns a clothing store. She
that's hard
marries
work.
people. She does a notary. I mean, this girl hustles, but
That's hard work.
it's
How did she
still,
do during the pandemic? Did she have a clothing store during the pandemic?
she had to close down.
That's what I was thinking. That's the kind
She
of, oh, wow.
reopened after, but she, she had closed down during it, because it was, nobody knew what was going on. And so nobody wanted to take chances,
Nobody knew.
but yeah, but that's past, now we just have, just got to get out. And if they don't want to vote, that's on them. That's on them. But at least I can just say is, do you want to vote or have you registered? And I, of course I'm on very much on a certain team, but at the
I
same
know we're
time,
a team. I know nonpartisan. Everybody get out to vote. And
but get out and vote, but I
you
do.
know, do you find that because you've been doing phone banking, you said some people, you just have to move on, but are the majority of the people happy that they're getting called, or because I know it could be. I've did the first thing I ever did for this kind of work was phone banking, but I was doing it for Americans abroad, and they're usually so happy that we call because nobody, we're the own Democrat. Sorry, the people I work with, the only ones that call people overseas, but people in the States, like they get called all the time. So are they annoyed or they're happy? What can you tell?
A lot of times they're happy. A lot of I have been getting, because I'll do some in Pennsylvania for one day and then I'll do it in Georgia for another day or Virginia another day. And a lot of them are like apathy. A
Oh,
lot of them are younger, like, well, I don't know about this voting stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, come on now. This is talking about freedom. I said, and if come on now, seriously, you gotta do something. Even if you don't want to vote for who I'm voting for, just that's your exercise. You're right, and then we've had people who couldn't vote. Women, we couldn't vote. It was the women suffrages. Go back in your just get a little bit of history will help you sometimes, a
that's
lot of
right.
times, but I just say a little, we had to march women, and it was, led by a white woman. The suffrages, one of them, but on board, other nationalities got on board just to vote. And you just
Just
want
to
to say,
vote.
oh, I'm done with it. And I'll tell them, I said, you're done with the government. The government is not done with you, though, because you have to live under whatever, whoever is,
I like
it,
that. You say government, you may be done with government. Government's not done with you. I like that.
no, not even from birth. You get a social
Yeah.
security number and you're in the government and whatever. So whatever rules apply, that's how you're gonna have to follow. So don't you want to have a say in whatever rules? And I just don't. What do you live under a
You,
rock? And
you
I
know,
want to say,
I know, and you know what? It's. I've never really figured out why. I guess we're different, right? We want to vote. We're voters, but I never really understand how people don't get excited about it. Maybe it's almost to me like if you haven't tried it, don't you love going to the polls, getting that I voted sticker, and but
well,
it's
I do. I can tell a lot of I can say a lot of people that I have encountered over the years, especially maybe the last 10 years. They're just like, if you ain't helping me right now in my personal life and stuff, they don't think anything further than that. But one thing, is like a domino effect. If it's just one thing and you can try to push and persuade or whatever, then you're going to get closer and closer to the things that will help you in your personal life and situations. A lot of them are just like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, because
Mhm,
they've been living under, really struggling all their life. So they're like, nobody done anything right now all my
mhm,
life so far. So, because they didn't see real change. But this
mhm.
is the time real change is going to happen.
I agree. And you know what? What do you think about encouraging them to pay attention, what's happening in their local pocket politics? Because they feel that don't you think, what happens locally, you feel that the fastest, that has the biggest impact, I think. So a lot of these local races, people can get excited about that. Has that worked, with the
Now
young
for the
people?
local races, I come
Hmm.
I find out that a lot of people don't vote in local races.
That's
They
so
just,
important though.
and a lot of them really, I don't know if they missed civics class or they felt, I don't know what, but they'll be like, I just will do for president. And I'll go, well, what about your local cop? your local school system, your local, these things are important and you want them to start lining up.
Sonia, it's so funny.
But
Fleming
they
in the
forget
chat.
about it. They forget about that. But it starts with those little things and then it goes all the way up to the presidency. But
They
you can
do.
have change in your
So,
community by
Sonia, I
voting.
wanted to tell you. I wanted to tell you, I don't know if you can see in the chat, but Fleming wrote, "Government is not done with you." New slogan for new t-shirts. Put it on the campus. You might have a new
Government ain't
t-shirt
gonna be done
there.
with you until after you die, and then unfortunately they'll be trying to get you to pay something from the grave. That's just a fact, right? They'll probably. I mean, come on, it's just a
So the
fact.
lesson here is
I,
participate, participate locally, nationally, right? That's the lesson you're telling us. So when you participate, because whether you are active or not, government is active in your life. So you should be active back, right? You should register. And then, but you know what? You should vote. And then after you vote, people still have to be active, right? It's not just like a passive thing, but the main thing is you got to start with registering to vote. Did you vote? Do you remember your first election? I remember, I'm old enough. My first election, Jesse Jackson was in the primary, and I voted in that election. I'm that old. What was your first election? You remember?
the same here. The same
You'd
here.
say, okay, we're
The
that
same.
generation. Yeah. So Fleming, you can put in the chat if you don't want to come off mute, or anybody. What's your first memory, your election? We're all here because we love to vote. We know it's important. We love to help other people to vote. We're like-minded people. So it's strange to us when people don't want to vote, but we understand that some people need help. And that's why we're in this. I'm so appreciative to you all for being on the call to say, you know what, I want to help make sure that I'm even including overseas messaging in your get out the vote work. And I'm Sonia to come off mute and say, how do I do this? It's wonderful. This makes me happy. This is a Saturday afternoon. It's sunny where I am. You all could be doing something else, right? On your busy Saturdays, and you're here. I don't know what you did Friday night, but you made sure that you were here today. And I'm so appreciative. Sonia, thank you for reminding us how important it is to vote. Sonia is a phone banker. She's knocking on doors. You all are doing your part. Um, there's somebody who's a famous wife that said, do something, right? I think we all heard that. And when she was telling that story, she said, somebody else that we know that's famous, her mother said, do something. So we're all doing something. My part is I'm an overseas voter. So the first time I voted from overseas, I think it might have been 2008, six, I'm sorry. My ballot weeks before the election. No, it was 2008. I'm sorry. I moved to Sweden in 2006, but 2008, that's the first time I voted from Sweden. Okay, I voted in 96 from London, but anyway, I don't want to tell fibs. So it wasn't the first time I voted, but it was the first time I had to use a federal emergency write-in ballot because it was 2 weeks to the election day, traditional election day, where people go to the polls, not for early voting, but November 5th, whatever that day was in 2008. It was 2 weeks and my ballot had not come. So, you know, at that time I had to post to mail back my ballot. I didn't have another option. So I was nervous. So somehow I knew about fvap.gov, Federal Voting Assistance Program.gov. The government runs this website, very straightforward. And I knew about the federal write-in absentee ballot. To be honest, I don't know how I knew, but I'm so glad I knew. So now I make sure everybody knows it, right? So you can pull that ballot off of the website at any time. It's a downloadable form. Now, the regular absentee ballot that you request, you're waiting for your Board of Election to send it to you. Yeah, I was reading my email. So I got an email. So, dear UACAVA voter, UACAVA, Uniform Overseas Citizens America Voting Act, I believe that UACAVA is. It's telling me this email came yesterday. Ballots should arrive starting 45 days in advance. So that's the 21st, that's today. Some people have already gotten their ballot. I know Wisconsin voters, Arizona voters, New Jersey voters already got their ballot. And this is telling me that they're pleased to tell me it's on my way. So I need to check my inbox, spam, junk folders. So that's another tip when you're telling people that they can vote for overseas. A lot of people just don't even know they can vote. So when you say, yeah, you can vote, did you know? Go to fvap.gov, say That'll be the same website to register, request a ballot, and also to access your federal emergency write-in absentee ballot. Ask them if they're in the process and they want to get the regular ballot. It's not too late to get it to email to them, depending on their state. See, step one, you're going to go to FVAP. You're going to drop down on your state. Some states require you to mail your ballot back in by post, right? You know, the envelope, put the stamp on it. So where you live, depending on where you live, you know how fast that might work for you, right? For example, in Sweden, we get mail 3 days a week. I don't know how often they send it out, but I get mail 3 days a week, 3 days a week. So maybe you're thinking, oh, I better get that emergency ballot in right now because maybe my regular ballot won't arrive on time. Some people are doing that at the same time they request a ballot. So step one, you'll fill in the information. Step two, it's 5 steps. You'll review it. 3, you'll print it. You do need a printer. You need a printer. So if you don't have a printer, you'll be able to save your form until you can get to a printer. Coffee shop might have a printer. The copy place may have a printer. Place where they pack and ship boxes may have a printer. Public library, your student, your university library. Um, if you're working, print it at work, ask a colleague, a friend who may have access to a printer. You have to, there's no way around it. You have to print it because you have to sign it. Did I skip sign? Step 4, you have to sign it. So that's why you have to print it. You have to sign it with the liquid signature because you know those good people at the Board of Elections, your local election officers, they will compare your signature, right? And you may have to cure your ballot, and that's if they get in touch with you and say, oh, your signature looks funny, or you even forgot to sign it, right? They'll give you a chance to cure it and get your ballot right. So step 5, that's when you print it. Sorry. Step 3 is when you print it. Sorry. 4 is when you sign it. 5 is when you send it back. I can upload mine to a website. Prior to that system they enacted, I could fax it back. Don't mail your ballot in the traditional mail way unless that's the only way that your state will let you submit your ballot. And if that's the case, that's why you want to do that as soon as you get your ballot. You want to be checking spam folder, like they said, junk, as soon as you get your ballot. I'm going to see if I got, because this is the only thing I got. It said yesterday that I should get it soon. So now what I'm going to be doing, I get a little obsessive. I go back and I check this email like constantly at this
Agent, do you know the
stage.
last date that they could even send it out? Do you know when that
It's going
is?
to depend on your state. That's the thing. You know, in general, the embassies are saying like October 5th, if you want to use that diplomatic pouch at the embassy, because depending on where you live, for some people, that's going to be the best or the only solution because their mail system is either still disrupted or just so unreliable. So they're saying October 5th, if you're going to take it to the embassy, because that takes a long time. That's giving yourself a month. It depends on your state. Some states say it has to be postmarked by a certain date. Some states say it has to be received by election day. So that's why I just generally say early. But our system's so complicated. It's going to depend on your state. We don't have one national cutoff date for everyone. So that's where you could, like, if you want to play around with it, look in Virginia and see when is the cutoff date for Virginia, because you're going to be talking to people in Virginia. But I
And so
honestly,
that would, yeah, I would do that too because I like to talk to people and be informed. I mean,
there you go.
because I don't
Exactly.
want them to swiggle out of any kind of way. I want them to, that's just how I am. I'm a researcher by nature anyway. If they come at me, well, what if I send it out? I have to go TDY, but what if I send it out when I get back and figure out when
And
is the date and stuff. And
Sonia, you're
so
making my heart sing. You're asking all the right questions, and you're right. And see, you're going to be doing this in Virginia, so you can take a few minutes, look at it, and say, okay, this is what it is for Virginia. And also, here's the thing: we have that website is so good. You can say, you know what, right here, good question. Don't worry like you have to have it memorized, but you're a researcher. You're good at that. Maybe you can retain that information, but you'll have it right here and say, you know what, good question. Here it is. You don't have to let that person walk away. So
exactly.
don't You know what I mean? Because but see, you're much better than me when it comes to stuff like that, keeping information in your head. I'm not. So that's why I just will have the resource on hand and say, let me look and see. Because I don't, but I'm so glad you're asking that because you're right, TDY. What, your population of people you're going to talk to, right? So you can
Yeah,
anticipate, yeah, you can anticipate those questions that they may have and come right back with the answers. Oh, you're brilliant. And all of us can do that. Because if you're talking to a first time voter or someone that's 18 yet, going to be 18 or 19, they haven't voted before. So you can kind of anticipate those questions because you did it yourself first time. If you're going to be talking to college students that are going to be on campus or going away,
yeah.
that might be the last thing they're thinking about is, did they get their absentee ballot? They're so excited about their other experience. So you can have that and say, yeah, I studied abroad. Maybe voting wasn't at the top of my list, but you can make it a project and do it as a fun thing with students. And, if you're, the foreign, I was gonna say foreign people, that sounded maybe weird, but I was gonna say the foreign media and all my friends that aren't American that I know from abroad, they're so fascinated with our election and watching everything that we do, so you can even include them with it and say, hey, I'm having a vote party. Come watch me turn in my ballot, me and a bunch of my friends. So you can give people ideas how they can do it so it doesn't seem
I find,
important or boring. Yeah. What you gonna
I
say?
find that when I'm on YouTube and I go to different news stations or different things on there, a lot of overseas people who are not even American, they're more concerned than a lot of Americans. And
Because
rightfully so, because if
exactly.
we're the number one, right? We're the number one country and they look to us. So they're just as concerned.
It
I'll get it
impacts
from
them.
Australia, I'll get it from all over. And they're like, if I could vote, I would vote. I'm praying for you all, all this. I mean, from all different countries, they're like,
They
look,
are praying
Canada,
for us. That's so
they're
funny.
all
You're right.
like,
They're praying for us. You know
because
what? I
they
just
know.
wanted to, they know it impacts our foreign policy packs, in ways that we don't realize. But I wanted to say Fleming's first election was Jimmy Carter. And don't you just love that man? And don't you just love Jimmy Carter? My uncle got his first job at the State Department in that administration. I can remember that. But Jimmy Carter, and he is still with us. He is, and he said he is hanging on so he can vote in this election. And we know who he wants to vote for, right? This is a nonpartisan call, but we can celebrate Jimmy Carter and the
Oh,
fact that
Jimmy Carter is fabulous.
he's
My
fabulous.
husband
So,
adores him. Yes, he's
Fleming, good for you. What a good first election that you had. What a good memory that yeah. So my first election was that one right after that one, and we know how that went. Um, yeah. So yeah, election memories. I'm really excited for people that this is going to be their first election because it's just historical for so many reasons. So I'm really excited for first time voters this year. When we have done outreach in the past, we oversee abroad, I always make sure I have buttons to give first time voters or first time registers, people to register and say, so you remember your first time. So Jimmy Carter, yeah, 1980 was my first election. I can't remember my first like midterm, but that's because I'm from DC and we don't have statehood, so our representatives are on the Hill. It's not as important. Um, I shouldn't say it's not as important, but like we don't have these big governor races. We don't have these big Senate races. So I don't remember my first midterm. But if anybody remembers their first midterm, because you know what? We're doing this work right now for 2024. I know you will be back here in 2026 doing the same work, right? We're doing it every 2 years. And then depending on your state, people could have elections every year, you know, every year. So I want to make okay. So yeah, so I because I promised last week if I had my ballot, I would vote it. So I don't have my ballot to show you all, but you all can see that I'm checking my email. If you can always remind people to check their emails, it because their ballot may be in their spam folder, and people panic and say I didn't get my ballot, but it can be in your spam folder. So okay, so DC Board of Elections yesterday they let me know that my ballot is coming soon and to check and they have their email if they have any questions They have their website. So what am I going to do after I vote my ballot? I track it, right? I can see DC will say we got your ballot, and then I'll look and see if it was um, received. So that's the other thing to encourage people. Now, when you vote in person, you can't really track your ballot that way. So that's one thing when you vote absentee, you can track your ballot. So, okay, gosh, I was hoping to vote my ballot today, but it's going to be this weekend, I guess, sometime soon. Um, yeah, that's the only thing I could. Yeah, I was hoping to vote my ballot today, maybe to come later. So, but the DC people told me, Board of Elections, that it's coming. So you can remind people to have a relationship with their Board of Elections office. See, mine is DCBOE. Maybe Virginia is VA, BOE for Board of Elections. I don't know. But have a relationship with your Board of Elections. They're good people. They're regular people like you and me with really tough jobs, right? Really stressful jobs. So you can call or email them and say, I'm confused. I need help. I didn't get my ballot. Did you get my ballot? Did I do everything right? And you will know that when you're voting like this, anyway, you vote, somebody's got to look at your ballot to register your vote, right? But this isn't going to be a secret process through this, right? The people are going to be looking at your ballot. So I don't know why I say, oh, I say that because DC, there's a waiver that I have to say, sign waiver that I'm not going to have a secret ballot. So that's just acknowledgement that someone is going to see my ballot, process my ballot. I'm trying to share with you everything. Oh, Fleming, you're right. Voting is a sacred trust. Don't let anyone steal your trust. You have to go to another meeting, Fleming. No problem. Thanks so much for being here and for participating in the chat. Yes. Oh, you all make me warm my heart because I know that I'm not alone thinking that voting is such a big deal, right? It's cool to vote. It's important to vote. It's powerful. I think it's fun. That's why I volunteer my time. That's why you volunteer your time while you're here. If you haven't already, Stacey, I don't know, Sonia, I don't know if you went to fvap.gov, FWAB, just to see, but do it when you can, and you'll be familiar and you'll know. I promise you, it's 5 steps.
Yeah, I'm gonna go after this call and
Okay.
look in through it. And if if I have questions or whatever, I'll just ask those anybody who has ears to get to the
That
bottom of if I need a question, I have no, that's one thing about me, and I thank God I had never, I will ask anybody anything.
anybody who have ears, I love
But
that, and
there's
I
a
love
lot of
that.
people who do not, they just hesitant. And that's the way their makeup is, a lot of people won't say anything, but they want to. And so they wait for somebody else to ask a question or whatever. Well,
Well, that's why we got people like you who aren't afraid to speak up, ask the questions, what you're thinking, want to make sure you're clear and not confused. And I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah,
Keep me on
definitely.
track because it's
My
clear for
husband and
me.
I lived over in England for 3 years, and we had to do the absentee ballots as well.
Yeah,
That was
there you
that was
go.
back in 2007.
Where were you in England?
We was in Lakenheath.
Okay, I don't know where that is because my husband was at the UK Defense Academy, and that was in Shrivenham. But I just wondered if you all were there at the Defense Academy as well. Okay,
No, it
so
was in Suffolk County, is all I know.
Suffolk.
Suffolk,
Okay.
Suffolk.
Did you how did you have you said in the early 2000s, how was it?
It was good. It was good.
Because we were there when we were there, I'm trying to think, it was 2013 to 2017, and people were complaining about energy prices were high then. I remember. Um,
we was there in 2007, in 2000.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm. Because I
everything. I
remember
mean, it was.
energy prices were high, and I think energy prices were high everywhere then. But I remember people complaining about energy prices, and um, I know, yeah, energy prices. I'm just trying to think. I think everywhere energy prices were high then, and old people were particularly getting hurt,
Mhm.
with the heating bills, and so I think about stuff like that. You know, energy costs. It's hurting. It's been tough, and I know a lot of people talking about this election is for me, it's about helping people make it day to day,
It
making
is.
choices with leaders that are going to help us get through the day to day because prices are high everywhere. People
Hmm.
complain about prices are high in Europe too.
Well, prices are always high, right? When there's a war going on, even though people, the U.S. is not at war, but if you look at it, we kind of are because we have to fund
Yeah,
war. We
and
don't want that war to end up coming over here.
that's
So we have to
right.
stop it where it is right now.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. And it's affecting the food prices because the country, one of the countries involved, they do a lot of agriculture. People don't think about that. So it's affecting food prices globally. And you're right. It is like the whole world's at war. You know, we may not be literally with our soldiers, our
a lot of
people.
people will come up and say, "Well, why are we giving money?" And I get it. Nobody wants war, but we have to help the people around because if he goes and captures that country, then he's gonna go to further countries, and before you know it, it'll be the whole other countries that they'll have, and it'll be that one country against America. I mean,
If
we're
you're former,
interconnect. We're
yeah,
interconnected. We
I was
we
gonna
are.
say, you're former military, your military family. I don't know if you were active duty or you were, supporting, because like I said, I was a daughter and spouse of military. So, we're military family. You know how interconnected we are, right? You see that. And that's why standing by our allies is important. But nobody wants to go to war. And I'm just really hopeful that with, you know, everybody's sick of war, don't you think? And they're sick if they want change, and we're gonna have this election, and hopefully, we can find peaceful solutions, because I don't think the war is just gonna stop like that overnight. We have to be realistic,
I mean, we
right?
had wars from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything about, the start of the world and stuff, there was always a war going on, you know. And I think that's just the reality of it.
Do you think that that we can find this? You're right. There's always war. We always have to defend ourselves. Strong military is a must. The stronger the military, I believe, the less you have to fight, right? But I also know that our military, we're the best. So that's why we can get these best peaceful solutions. Nobody really wants to mess with us, right? That's
Right,
how
but
I
then
look
again, you
at it.
look back to like 9/11 and all this, right?
Yeah,
Then it was an eye opener,
it
to
sure
say,
was.
look, we need to ramp up our military, not downsize and not nothing. Anything can happen. So we need to be having a bolstered military. We need funding for whatever they need, all of that, and for that's why the G Summit is so important too, to just have friends around the world, to help
Yeah.
because it's it,
You
it's
know what? I think it's so important that we take care of our military. Do you feel like you all have been taken care of now? You know what I mean?
Well, in the beginning, 'cause we was in for 23 years in the
Mhm.
beginning, more so, but it seems like the government has been like getting rid of a few things here and there.
Some
Uh,
services and stuff, you mean?
y-
Benefits, services?
yeah, and then just as well, not just the military, but like it used to be if you're military, you could go in restaurants or just clothing stores, anything, and then you could get like 10% off. But now you don't find that as much. A lot
Oh,
of people's
really?
like,
Oh, no. Yeah, I used
no,
to love the military discount because I thought it
no,
was such a nice gesture.
yeah. No, a lot of them, they'll go, I'm sorry, we don't do that. Just so it's inside in, the federal government and also, on the outside in the community where
That's interesting. I hadn't noticed.
So I think we need to, just stand behind the military people and realize, without the military, we're not going to be any type of free country, any type of anything. We have our freedoms because of the military, and a
It
lot of that.
include, yeah, it
I
including the right to vote from overseas because of the
I think
military.
because we really haven't been in war, right? but back then they went through the war and it was a Great Depression. And then, people start getting seriously hungry and then they're going to get their eyes open, right? And then they want to, look into it. But it shouldn't have to be that. We should be living in you know, preventive ways. How could how could we prevent things from getting so bad and stuff? Well, we
That's
have to have
yeah.
the money for the military and take care of the military people so that, they can say, oh, because I'm not gonna lie, we joined because of the benefits that they had.
Hmm.
But across the board, the benefits are still great.
Hmm.
They really are. I'm just talking about like little things that they chip away from. But,
Yeah,
you
no, and
know,
that's a consideration. Anybody making a career. Okay, I'm going to give my life, my hard work. What am I going to get in addition to my paycheck? So it's good you looked at the benefits. It's sorry that they're coming down, but you know what? I think that I really hope that in your experience, did the military vote? Like you said you voted, because I know you get help on base, but I really hope that the military vote, because I think a lot of times I don't want. I think their votes are the most important. Does that make sense? Because we ask so much from our military. I think your votes are the most important. If that makes sense, I really feel like you do anything that is asked of you, the military. So I really want to make
well,
sure
I
your
can
voice
understand that,
heard.
and I can understand that, and I could say because the chief, the president, who is the leader of the military.
Mm-mm.
So you want to have someone in charge that knows their stuff and that
Yeah, I hope
is,
they all vote for the boss. That's it. That's a good way that you put it. That's their boss. That's right. So I hope everybody in the military actually says, "I get to pick my boss. I have
and
a
whatever
say."
command comes
Yeah.
down from them is going to reflect on them. I mean, more than any other Americans, it's going to reflect every decision that comes down. And if you don't have good people who is, working for them and working wholeheartedly for everybody in the country's safety and all that, that's going to reflect them. I mean, that's why they should be the ones really concerned because us as civilians,
That's what I mean. Like, and if you look at it and say, you really have a big say in who's going to be your next boss. So I hope all of the military vote, especially because
exactly.
they gave us our right, other overseas citizens. So I hope they take advantage of it.
Your boss, their boss, they could pick a boss that says, okay, you're gonna go to war for me, for whatever, and you're not coming back for 5 years. I mean, what can they do? They can't do it. They have to do what is said by whoever their boss is at that time. And they helped pick that boss.
Perfect. You know what? I just let somebody in. Let's see, H. I don't know if you can hear. Welcome. We have been here talking. You just came in, me and Sonia talking. We've been talking about our first election. We've been talking about Sonia's military family. I'm military. We've been talking about living abroad, voting from abroad. And I'm so glad you're here. I just want to, because we've got 7 minutes, and this is so great that you're here because it's 5 steps to help somebody vote from overseas. You don't want to use a regular absentee ballot. So I'm just going to run through it real fast because it's so simple. You go to fvap.gov. This is for any American overseas. You don't have to be military. But we are thanking our military because of them. We have these rights. We have federally protected rights. And we are definitely thanking our military for making sure that that happens. For all they do, they literally protect our right to vote. So you're going to need a printer, right? You're going to need an internet connection, and you're going to go to fvap.gov. It's 5 steps. It's very straightforward because it's everything depends on your state, right? We don't have a one national voting regulation, right? It's every state administers the election. So you have to follow their rules. So fill it in. You're going to drop down menu. It's going to have your state. You fill it in. Once you filled everything in, you're going to review it. So this is your chance to make any changes. You're going to be asked if you intend to return to your state. If you don't know, you don't know. But if you know, just answer all the information that you can. Step 3, you're going to have to print it out. you're going to have to print it out. Now, the reason I say review it, and how, if you say you're not going to return, depending on your state, you may not get a down ballot. And the down ballot is, whether it's governor, senator, school board, attorney general, you may not, depending on your state. So just know that. Print it out. You do need a printer. If you don't have a printer at this stage, you can save the document and, find a printer. A friend might have one, a neighbor, a public library. If you're a university student, your university gives you access to printers. They have printer stations, or in your library there. Maybe sometimes a coffee shop, or where you pack and ship things, or make photocopies, can print. Just be creative and figure out where you print, because you have to print it, because you have to sign it. Liquid signature, you have to sign it. You can't like photocopy in a signature. You have to sign it, and then you have to send it back. You do not want to send it by mail, where you put a stamp on it and put it in the mailbox, unless you have to. There will be some states that require you to do that. So if the state says you can fax it or email it, do that. And I was just going to show you an app that I use on my phone. Well, I don't have to show you. I can tell you. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's called Genius Scan. Genius Scan. It's a free app. Genius Scan, and you would just take a picture of what you printed out, send it to just email it to yourself as a PDF, and then you've got it from there to upload it to your Board of Elections website, or to fax it. If you have to fax it, use Genius Fax. It's another free app that you can use on your phone. And what I was going to say, yeah, just fax it. So you don't have to have a fax machine. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why am I telling you about Genius Fax? Yeah, so you don't have to have a physical fax machine, right? You printed out your paper, your ballot, you've signed it, you've taken a picture of it, and then you can use that Genius Fax to fax it off. And all the information about how to return your ballot will be included in the process that you go to. So just to remember, see, that was 5 easy steps. 5 easy steps. Step number one should really be, you just go to fvap.gov. You're there though, right? So step one, fill out the form, drop down menu for your state. Step two, review it. Make sure you answered everything completely, honestly, right? This is your vote. You're not messing around. You're printing nothing out. You're printing that paper out. You're signing it. Liquid signature, that's called. You're signing it. They want you to sign it. And then you're going to send it back. Email, fax, if you can. Postal mail if you must. Only postal mail if you must. Only if you must. October 5th, I have been told, is a cutoff date that you can use, because every state has a different cutoff date. So maybe October 5th is not your actual cutoff date, but if you use October 5th as a cutoff date, that gives you a month to get that ballot back. So do you need to drop it off at the embassy to use a diplomatic pouch? Because where you live, the mail is really sketchy. I get mail 3 days a week in Sweden. Mail is delivered 3 days a week in Sweden. Okay. So is it really sketchy where you are? You need to, mail it back. Then, you're not going to use a diplomatic pouch, but you're going to send it back because it's slow in the US, in the state. Ever since COVID, mail, I always found postal mail a miracle, that you could actually put something in a box and it gets to the destination. But it's been a challenge since COVID, right? So if you give yourself from October 5th to get your ballot in, whether you fax it, email it, or you have to postal mail it, or you decide you're going to use some type of express service, use that as a deadline. My advice to you is, our ballots start coming now as of September 1st. Ballots have been arriving in people's email boxes all week. I have Wisconsin voters, New Jersey voters, and Arizona voters that are happily, gleefully reporting that they got their ballots. My ballot is on the way. I had a message yesterday from the DC Board of Elections that said, "Hi, you a copper voter, Uniform Overseas Citizen American Voting Act voter, right? Hi, your ballot is coming soon. So that's great for me because boom, I know they got my email, my ballot's coming. It didn't bounce, it wasn't spam. I have the direct email to copy and search like every 10 minutes. I get obsessive about it. So have that relationship with your board of elections. If you are already waiting for your ballot, check and see where it is. If you're going to help someone vote, just go to fvap.gov, right? /FWAP, Federal Emergency Write-in Absentee Ballot. I used this ballot in 2008. It was 2 weeks before Election Day, that traditional November election day where people walk to the polls, and my ballot had not come. I'm sitting in Stockholm, Sweden. My ballot had not come. I knew I could submit my federal write-in absentee ballot. You're going to download it directly from fvap.gov. This isn't something that you're going to wait to receive. You retrieve it. This is your ballot to use when you need it. You retrieve it. So you're going to need to know who you're voting for, right? Depending on your state, if you can vote down ballot, you need to know. You can go to Ballotpedia because we're used to getting ballots that are filled in, right? This is not going to be filled in. You're going to have to fill it in. You're going to have to spell people's names correctly. So just spell them correctly. You can go to Ballotpedia. You can have your browser open so that you see the names right. We can easily make mistakes, but you don't want to make mistakes when you're voting. When you're voting, period. But when you have to fill it in because you're using an emergency ballot, just take your time, fill it in, right? And then submit it the way that your state requires. If you have to fold that up, put it in a envelope. They will provide the address for you. They may even provide an envelope in the form of we call it origami, right? It'll be on a piece of paper, and it'll have the outline of the envelope, and it'll tell you how to fold it. That's if you want to use it with their pre-label, printed label. You can always cut that label, put it on your envelope. Follow the instructions. Some states need a witness. If you have to sign, put it in the envelope, sign the back of the envelope, put that in the envelope, put that in the mail. Make sure if you do have to put it in the post, in the mailbox, make sure you have enough postage, right? The last thing you want is your ballot to be out there in limbo land, never reached its destination, never got back to you. Make sure you have enough postage. Make sure you have enough postage. I used an express service that year in 2008. It was 2 weeks. I didn't know what else to do, right? I didn't know what else to do. I did not know at that time that I didn't have to wait until 2 weeks to do this. I could have done it, right? 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I could have done it right from the very beginning. And then if my regular ballot came, voted that as well. And then that's what it would have been counted. So use your best discretion. You know where you live. You know how long it might take to get there. You know where you live, you know how long it might take to get there. So the federal write-in absentee ballot, emergency absentee ballot, is for overseas citizens, our fabulous military, other Americans living and working abroad, studying abroad. You can use that if your state did not send your absentee ballot within a comfortable period where you know you can get it back on time. And that, if you can email your ballot back or fax it back, maybe you're not panicking yet because you're going to start a conversation with your local board of elections and say, hey, I didn't get my ballot. I don't want to use the emergency ballot yet until I know that there's going to be some problem. That's your choice. I have no problem voting in an emergency ballot and then voting my regular ballot if it comes in because I know that's the ballot that's going to be counted. Right. And I know that what if my ballot didn't come? Hey, they got my emergency ballot. So it's like being prepared. It's like having an umbrella, right? When they say 40% chance for rain. If that makes sense. It's like having a little jacket when they say, oh, it might get down to this, in the 50s this evening, and you've been out all day. It may feel like a little convenient or a little bit of extra work, and then, oh, I don't need it in the end. But what if you needed it, right? So use your absentee ballot right now. If you have not received, Sonia, so I love you, girl. Thanks for putting it in the chat. Um, use the absentee ballot, the federal write-in absentee ballot today. If you know it's going to be slow sending your ballot back by mail because your state requires that by mail. How do you know if your ballot has to be sent back by mail? When you requested it, it would have told you that in the process. But you can go here at fvap.gov and find that out. This website run by the government has everything that you need. Votefromabroad.org is another fantastic website. But for your federal write-in absentee ballot, the only place that you can retrieve it is fvap.gov.
Adrian,
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
this is also Sonia, a different Sonia. I had a quick question. So now, do you already have to have had a ballot request in order to use that emergency ballot? Because I was on last week. I think I told you I was running a hotline. I was a volunteer on the hotline. I guess it was like election when people call in with problems, voter protection. And on election day, my first call was a guy in Spain at 6 a.m. our time saying, I didn't get my ballot. And I asked him if he'd requested it. He didn't remember. He said it usually just comes. So I'm in Florida. I will just let people know right now, whether you are stateside or abroad, check it for your absentee ballot because the law changed here so that now you have to request it more
Ah,
frequently. So
yeah.
every time somebody, usually they're not overseas, but even here in the States, which we can't use the fax or anything, but if you don't have if you're not sure if you've requested it, like what could he have done if he could have gone? I told him to go to vote from abroad or vote from overseas.
Fantastic, Sonia. You know, exactly. Good. You know what?
I
Yay. I love that
okay.
you were there and you had that because, yay. I'm so glad you did that because you know what? And maybe he got into that Zoom one-on-one chat because that's one thing Vote from Abroad provides. Yeah, they got volunteers. They'll talk with him one-on-one
Right.
about his personal situation and hopefully he got it resolved right there on the spot. You know what I mean? So, yay. Yeah, you sent him
Okay.
there. But what I know, yeah, what I know, and see, that's Florida. So every state, yeah, they would have been put him with a Florida expert. So for
Right.
what I know, he could have used this. See, any voter may use this federal write-in absentee ballot request
Um,
form, but
okay.
only military voters, including spouses, independents, permanently overseas voters, including those who've never lived in the US, and temporary overseas voters can use it as a backup ballot. That's a lot of words to say. Wait a second. That's a lot of words to say. Wait 1 second, sweetie, to say yes. But I'm so glad you sent him there because what if Florida had changed something I'm not aware of? So I'm so glad that you sent him to votefromabroad.org and I hope he got his help. Are you going to follow up with him somehow?
Oh no, hey, that was a pre. I hope he's done it by now. This was
Yeah, it's
the
gone. It's done.
midterms,
Okay, yeah.
so
Oh, good,
but
good,
I'm just
good.
like it could happen again every year. Every time I
Absolutely.
volunteer, somebody's didn't get their ballot in time, or they didn't request it, or they waited. He wasn't sure. He was just kind of used to it coming. But a lot of people, even here in the state, who we can all vote absentee in Florida. You don't have to have an excuse.
Oh, fantastic. I
But
didn't
a
know
lot of
that.
times, what's been happening, it used to be a 2 year cycle. You only had to renew your request every 2 years, but they shut that down like it's once a year now. So a lot of people, if they didn't get the message, even here in the States, they're gonna be waiting and that ballot's not coming because
Oh
it's
gosh. Okay, so
yeah,
yeah, so check. So I'm so
yeah,
glad you popped on and
yeah,
said that. And because I'm gonna end now with some good news. That's like a
good.
good news and a good way to end. And I'm so glad you reported back from last week. That makes my heart full. So we're gonna just keep doing our work. Thanks for helping overseas voters. And we'll be in touch because I'm gonna send the follow-up, just this chat in case there's information here that can help people. So you'll hear from me that way. Okay.
Okay, great. Do you have a video? Has anyone or you or anyone uploaded like an instruction video, or just what you said, the 5 steps, so people can
You
just
know
see it?
what? You know what I'm doing right now? This is I think I've got it on YouTube Live on my YouTube. So I
Okay,
can send that link if that worked. I can send
okay,
that link, but I'm recorded on Zoom too. So yeah, I can share that. Thanks for reminding me that that's a good thing to do. I will do
okay.
that.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, babes.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We're gonna do this. We love helping people vote. So I'm just gonna sign off. You'll hear from me. Um, uh, what is it? Follow-up email. So E. Lewis, have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you.